Thanks, Cian Corla. I'm pleased and thank you, Minister, for taking the time to come before the House, and thank you for selecting this topic. Essentially, I wanted to raise the issue of parental choice for secondary schools and the need to ensure that that choice is preserved. As a result of the sustained reduction in funding which this government has introduced, more and more fee-paying schools are being forced to enter the free education system. And it is a really worrying trend. I have to say, Cian Corla, that parents by and large who send their children to fee-paying schools are not the sort of the elite or the multi-millionaires that often the media would have us believe, but rather they're parents who make the choice to make sacrifices in order to give their children the best possible chance in life. They are people who opt out of extra holidays, or indeed any holidays at all. They're people who work hard, pay taxes, and in addition they save the state a huge amount of money. And I think it's interesting and very worrying to note that 3 long-established fee-paying schools entered the free education system this year: Gormanston College in Meath, Newtown School in Waterford, and the oldest school in the country, St Patrick's Cathedral Grammar School, which also happens to be located in my own constituency. And their withdrawal follows similar withdrawals from Kilkenny College, Wilson's Hospital School Multy-Farnham, and there are a number that have indicated that they may too be forced to leave the fee-paying system and join the public system. This is at huge cost to the state. The cost of educating children is not totally borne by parents, obviously. It is also an obligation on the state. But the cost on an annual basis for a pupil's education in a fee-paying school is €3,710 compared to €8,900 in a free education school. And an independent report which was conducted in recent months shows that should the 25,600 students who are currently in fee-paying schools be forced into the free education system, it would cost the state an additional €133 million per year. So there is a major cost implication for the state. I'm also very concerned about the admissions to schools bill, which Deputy Matthew has already raised on the order of business, but perhaps I'll get a chance to intervene in a moment.
Deputy Peter Matthews.
Thanks, Cian Corla.
Yeah,
I'd like to add, underlining to what Deputy Creighton has said there, the cost of a pupil in a fee-paying school is €3,710. compared to €8,900 in a free education school. On the basis that there's 25,600 young people currently being educated in fee-charging schools, the transfer over to full reliance on the state would cost the state, the citizens of Ireland, a staggering €133 million per year. Now, you know, the fairness in education implies two levels. First, that all children get an education, a secondary education. And secondly, that if parents wish to support, in addition to that fairness of education in the secondary school classroom, additional things, sports, extra activities, and so on, if they're willing from their after-taxed income to pay that, that should be allowed. It's a choice of theirs. They defer other expenditures which they could spend on themselves from after-tax earnings. And it's very wrong to sort of shoehorn people away from making that very valid choice and preference. Rather than immediate consumption, they're deferring consumption or setting it aside in order to educate more widely their children and develop them, maybe in sports or in other ways. So, you know, to be putting the focus and the cosh on the private fee-paying schools is not fair. It's not equitable. And even the teacher-pupil ratios in those schools have been disimproving as a result of the shoehorning. By the way, too, there are other areas of economic benefit that the private schools provide. They have non-state funded teachers. They have secretarial and administrative staff are paid. The caretaking personnel receive income, catering staff, cleaners, medical and sick-bay staff, maintenance and groundskeepers, financial support staff, bursars, night staff in boarding schools and security staff. All of these are extra income being generated, extra families being fed, extra people being employed in the economy as a result of the choice by some parents to bolster up the education that should be equally and fairly provided to the children of this state.
Thank you. And I'll call the Minister.
Could I just thank Deputy Creighton and Deputy Matthews for the opportunity to address this issue and to outline to the House the position in relation to post-primary education. The Deputies will be aware of the very challenging economic environment that forms the backdrop to all decisions relating to the public finances. While the Government has tried to protect frontline services, difficult choices had to be made to identify savings across all departments. Achieving savings in education is particularly difficult given the significant increases in the overall numbers of pupils in our schools. Teacher allocations to all second-level schools are approved annually by my department in accordance with established rules based on recognised pupil enrolment. The criteria for the allocation of posts are communicated to school managements annually and are available on the department's website. In accordance with these rules, each school management authority is required to organise its subject in accordance with these rules, each school management authority is required to organise its subject options within the limits of its approved teacher allocation. At post-primary level and in accordance with existing arrangements, where a school management authority is unable to meet its curricular commitments within its approved allocation, my department considers applications for additional short-term supports, i.e. curricular concessions. The allocation process also includes an appeal mechanism under which schools can appeal against the allocation due to them under the staffing schedules. The appeal procedures are set out in the published staffing arrangements. The Appeals Board operates independently of the department and its decision is final. The deployment of teaching staff in the school, the range of subjects offered and ultimately the quality of teaching and learning are in the first instance a matter for the school management authorities. The Government's focus in recent years has been on operating a budgetary programme that is designed to return the Government's finances to a sustainable basis. This included budget decisions which brought guidance provision within the staffing schedule allocation for post-primary schools and an adjustment to the ratio for fee-paying schools. I acknowledge that bringing guidance within quota is challenging for schools. However, the alternative was to adjust the pupil-teacher ratio staffing allocations. The budget decision sheltered the impact for all DESH post-primary schools by improving their standard staffing allocation. The budgetary decision to increase the pupil-teacher ratio for fee-charging schools reflects the fact that fee-charging schools have resources, as Deputy Matthews has said, through fees charged to employ teachers privately, an option that is not available to schools in the free education scheme. This Government recognises the importance of ensuring that students from a Protestant background can attend a school that reflects their denominational ethos, while at the same time ensuring that funding arrangements are in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. The Department is open to having discussions with any fee-charging school which may be considering how best to continue to provide education to its pupils. Where such discussions occur, they will be conducted on a confidential basis. 5 fee-charging schools have joined the free education scheme since 2010/2011. Since 2009, cumulative savings of over £25 million have been realised as a result of the changes to the staffing of fee-charging schools. That sum very significantly outweighs any additional costs incurred as a result of schools entering the free scheme and has also allowed for a much greater protection of free schools than would otherwise have been possible. So, I suppose on the financial argument, the savings have outweighed the costs that you referred to in relation to the schools that have come into the free scheme. And I suppose, I would end by saying that it's been basically the policy, the overarching policy of education in Ireland since Donogh O'Malley's time, and Donogh O'Malley introduced free education in the 1960s, that free secondary post-primary education should be available to parents. While at the same time obviously acknowledging that schools are free to choose to stay out of that scheme. But the intention is that parents should have access to post-primary education that is free to their children. I suppose the other point to finish up on is that there were very difficult decisions that had to be made in recent years, and the changes that were made with regard to fee-paying schools were made in the context of a budgetary situation that I know Deputy Creighton has just raised previously in the order of business with regard to the Fiscal Advisory Council. We had to cut public spending to fit in with our commitments.
Thank you, Minister.
And this decision was part of that.
Deputy Creighton and Deputy Matthews have 1 minute each.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Minister. And I appreciate that you are operating in very difficult and constrained circumstances. But I think it's a little bit maybe disingenuous, perhaps not by you, but by your officials, to suggest that the €25 million somehow is directly connected to the cuts that have been specifically targeted at fee-paying schools, which of course is not the case. They're right across the education sector, so that's somewhat misleading. I think it's interesting that you reflect on the fact that fee charging schools of resources through fees charged, etc., to employ additional teachers and so on. But this is precisely the fact. They're being driven out of the fee-paying sector and into the free education scheme, which does put additional pressures on the public purse. There's no question about it. And I 100% subscribe to the vision of Donnacha O'Malley. I think he was a visionary, and his vision still has its imprint on Irish education. There's no question about it. But the essential, and in a sense, it's reflected in our constitution as well. The essential point is that every child deserves the same support from the state. And it is then a question, once every child is treated equally and every child is given the same degree of access and the same support by the state, that is the principle. It is a principle of universality. Above and beyond that support by the state, it is the choice of parents. And some parents do choose to spend their additional disposable income on ski holidays or other options in terms of personal expenditure, and some make huge sacrifices and forgo everything to send their children to a fee-paying school in order to further their child's education. And that choice is something that is now being diminished because of the choices of this government, and that's something that I feel is very regrettable. I look forward to when the legislation comes into the House in terms of the schools admission policy, because I'm not going to have a chance, unfortunately, to raise it now. Thank you.